Hey guys, I'm back on the channel. Recovering from my COVID, my second Pfizer jab. So I'm having a slow day, slow morning, just taking it easy. But I'm doing all right. I was on Facebook early because I'm just relaxing today, and I really go on Facebook. But when I do, I always encounter the other half of America, right? The half that mostly, probably all voted for Donald Trump and think the election was a fraud and believe in Jewish space lasers and fake weather lines and maps, right? So I was encountering them type of people. And today my encounter was made me very angry to the point where I just wrote that you're a racist, vile piece of shit to the person that wrote the comment, right? There's several types of racism that are always going to be there, right? The one that pisses me off is when someone tries to put you in a box, put your entire race in a box and say this is what black people do, right? If A happens, all black people tend to do B, right? And I hate that, to see that happen, right? The worst case in history was Nazi Germany, right? They put Jewish people in a box to rewrite the history that Jewish people shouldn't exist in Germany, and Jewish achievements, artwork, science, mathematics, social stuff, just wipe it off the map, wipe it out of existence, and rewrite history for Aryan German people, right? White, blonde hair, blue-eyed people, right? Right? They tried to do that by exterminating millions of Jews. Didn't work, right? Because it's evil as fuck, one. So that type of racism I put in the same spectrum as what happened in Nazi Germany, right? Today on Facebook, a coworker of mine, haven't seen since I've been work for a year now, haven't seen anyone in a year, put in a picture of someone else, took a picture of an Amazon package in their Porsche. Basically, the photographer is a black family who moved into all-white neighborhood recently, somewhere in the South, doesn't specify where. And they're scared to move the package from their porch. It came to them wrong address, and they're scared to take it to the right address simply because of recent stuff happening in their town, right? Where a black kid going to school, in one example, was waiting for a school bus, missed the school bus, and ended up having to walk to school in the morning, school day, got lost, went to a house to ask for directions, and was shot at by the white people living in that house. And their excuse for shooting at this kid was they feared for their life. They thought a kid in the backpack was coming to rob them, torture them, steal their house, kidnap them. At 8:30 in the morning on a school day, right, a solitary black kid was going to do that to an entire white family. Right? And they had to shoot at this kid because they're so scared. Family obviously was exonerated of all charges, and life goes on in racist America, apparently, right? Because of this, they refuse to ask their teenage sons to take an Amazon package that does not have their name or address on it to the rightful owners. Because if their son en route to that address gets stopped by the cops or a nosy white person with a package that doesn't have their name or address in it, what's going to happen to a black teenager, right? Oh, are you out here selling drugs? Oh, do you have a warrant for your arrest? What are you doing? Like, do you live here? Do you belong here? We see it time and time again on YouTube, right? So this family is fearful of taking that package off and taking it to rightful people because of stuff that could happen on the way in the same neighborhood, not interstate, not across the country, in the neighborhood, right? Imagine that. When you think of that, you're living in a neighborhood, and you're so scared of your other neighbors, you can't do something good. You can't return a package to them because of recent current events that everyone sees and we're aware of, right? Tim Scott could go on TV and say racism doesn't exist for him or people he's around, but for the rest of black America, we see it every day, right? I don't live in that neighborhood, but I understand, right? It's never happened to me, but I understand, right? Right below that, the story ends with, this is what it's like living in the post-Trump racist America, in the South, wherever it is, right? Don't care where it is. It could be anywhere in America. Below that, my coworker's buddy put something that pissed me off, right? Because what he tried to do was rewrite the story or the experiences of black Americans in 2020, 2021, right? Racism doesn't exist for him, so obviously it's fake. It's fake news, it's woke culture, it's cancel culture, it's fake, right? So this idiot, and I called him out as a racist, vile piece of shit, put right below that, well, I don't understand why black families, when they make money, move to white neighborhoods and then complain about white people, when if they stayed in black neighborhoods, they'll be shot at every day by all the black people, right? Or the kids will be like killed on the street by black drug dealers in the neighborhood, right? So his reasoning, and I always encounter this when seeing stuff that the other side of America, that I don't live around, right? I have Trump supporters living in my neighborhood, but they don't say what's on their mind, right? People go on Facebook to do that. But when I encounter that, it just behooves me that what is your thinking, right? If I have money and I'm a black family with kids, right? I'm making 6 figures. My first instinct to move is to get away from black people because I'm scared of them, right? It's not how it works in America. It's not black and white. It's not black people. You can't put us in some sort of box where we all think the same when we make money, or if we don't have money. If we're poor, we're killing all the black people. If you have money, we're trying to live with all the white people. It does not fucking work like that, right? I'm an example of that. I grew up in a bad neighborhood in Brooklyn in the 1990s during a crack cocaine epidemic, right? My grandparents had the biggest house in the street, right? We had everything as kids living in this neighborhood. My grandparents were Caribbean immigrants. So they moved to this country without an idea of what neighbors were good, what neighbors were bad. They got a nice piece of real estate in East New York, Brownsville, Brooklyn. In the 1990s, the worst place to live probably in that era, in America, right? In terms of like people dying, drugs, and stuff like that. I grew up around it, right? Didn't own a gun. My parents didn't own a gun. My grandparents didn't own a gun. We lived with black people, Latino people, Chinese people, Asian people, Japanese people. Everyone went about their business. Crime happened. We kept our heads up, paid attention, did what was right, moved around the neighborhood very smart, right? And we're okay, right? I could go back there now and not fear for my life. In fact, if I go back there today, guess who's living in that neighborhood, right? My grandparents first moved to build a nice home, sold it, and retired to Florida, right? And guess who's living in my grandparents' building? Guess who bought it and who's renting it or sold it to? Young, white, artsy people living in that neighborhood. Brooklyn, East New York. You go there now, it's white families, white young kids, college students, all in that neighborhood. There's a Starbucks, there's a Chase Bank now, right? It's all good now there, right? Right? So the logic of saying, because I have money as a black family, I don't want to live with all the black people, I don't want to live in a certain zone, is incorrect. Now, let me tell you the reality for myself, and what I go through now. We live in a nice neighborhood, right? Crime is on par with everywhere else in America here. Quality of life is easily better than most other places in America where home values are the same, and the property taxes are way less, right? Schools is where we want to move, right? Right now, if we were to stay here and raise our kids here in the public school system, public schools are 2 3s out of 10. Right? Property taxes for us is about $10,000 a year average. $10,000 a year for like $500,000 piece of house. Right? Way more than anywhere else in America, right? But the schools are 2s and 3s out of 10s, right? Not saying if my kids go to the public schools here, they're gonna end up flunking and failing, but I could afford to not have, I could afford to save myself the misery of a parent worrying about if my kids are gonna like go to college or graduate high school or something, all right? So we send our kids to private school at a tune of 25 grand a year each kid. 50 grand, 60 grand with taxes and everything like that. And that's just to get them in school, not talking about uniforms, books, and all the other fees and stuff like that, right? Right? So it's 60 grand a year for 2 kids in a good private school in New York, right? We could stay here and do that for the next, my kindergarten, now my daughter just started kindergarten, that'll be the next 12, 13 years. My son, 14 years, right? 60, 70 grand a year, and it probably will go up, right? Do we spend that money, stay here where it's nice, we're comfortable, it's economically, racially diverse, we love it here, our neighbors know us, we know our neighbors, or do we move a mile up the road, right? Not 20 miles, but a single mile up the road, right? In Westchester County to the next towns, we have Dobbs Ferries, Atari Town, Sleepy Hollow. Mile up the road, schools are 90% white and 10s out of 10s, right? Kids, and what that means, right? That means kids, 99.99999% graduate high school, right? 80% go to good Ivy League colleges, right? 90%, 95% go to college. 50%, over 50% get these what you call not academic scholarships, but sportsmanship scholarships. Very important for parents of kids up here, right? A lot of those kids that go to Harvard and Duke and Yale from wealthy suburbs usually try to get a scholarship to go there, right? No, even if you have the money, you don't want to spend like $200,000 a year for those schools if your kid could save a good chunk of change. So it's a big deal up here, right? I know it. I work with parents, I work with the schools. I know how big a deal it is to get those scholarships, right? So much so, if you want to look back a couple years to the college admission scandals where rich, wealthy millionaires were lying on the kids' applications, right? Forging SAT scores, right? Saying my kid is in crew and a excellent crew rower, right? My kid plays racquetball or lacrosse and never played a sport in their life, to get them into these top schools, because that's what they look for, to get that scholarship money. I know it's a big deal. So I'm looking at it, a house up that way, a mile up the road, right? Quality of life is about the same, right? The only difference is property taxes jumps from $10,000 a year for a $500,000 house to $20,000 a year for a $600,000 house, right? And it starts at $600,000, right? Where your average the house we would fit into, a 2,000 square foot house, would be about $800,000 to $900,000 with taxes. With a big backyard, taxes will be like 30 grand a year, property tax, just to live there, right? We get access to public schools, quality of life is better, and our kids go to school through 12th grade for free, right? 30 grand a year, nice house with a backyard, right? In the package deal. Or we live here and drive our kids into Manhattan to go to posh private schools at a tune of 70 grand a year, right? What's the logical solution to do, right? Move to where the white people are, right? Not because we want to live around white people, but because black people, believe it or not, we don't all sell drugs or buy gold chains, right? Or buy 20 Ferraris when we have money. We want our kids to go to good schools, right? Right? So that's why my family will be moving up that way. Eventually, when my son is done with his daycare, we'll be buying a house and paying 30 grand a year in taxes to live amongst 90% white people, so my kids could go to good schools and save us the misery of worrying if they're going to graduate fail in high school or get into a good college, right? It's not guaranteed, right? Moving up there isn't going to guarantee my kids are going to be successful in those public schools, right? But it's something as parents we try to do. And black people, yes, we are good parents. We think about our kids, right? And his single statement, it rewrites the concept of what it is to be a black family, right? His racist, vile statement says, when you're a black family with money, you only want to get away from all the black people to live with white people. End statement, right? It's more complicated than that, right? And that's what pisses me off. You can call me a monkey, you call me a banana eating nigger, whatever. I don't think I can say that on YouTube. I gotta delete that N-word, right? But what pisses me off is when you try to rewrite, right? Try to write over my story, right? My journey from a kid of color to an adult of color with kids of color, right? You can't rewrite my story if you haven't been in my shoes, pretty much, right?